electoral a través de tu plataforma preferida. Impreso, las mejores noticias, crónicas e infografías. Digital, el portal de noticias número 1.
Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. Why are we here? Because I believe that iron sharpens iron, and when we bring successful entrepreneurs, industry leaders to our show and discuss what's working in business, maybe some of what's not, what we're all able to do is learn and grow. As a result, our businesses grow, and the ripple effect impacts not only ourselves, our teams and their families, but also our communities and our world. You are in for a treat today. I have an extra special guest here, and we are going to talk all things IP protection, trademark, how do we protect our intellectual property, especially with the dawn of AI. So I am very pleased to welcome to the studio, Deborah Gearhart. Welcome.
Thank you. It is so good to see you. I'm honored to appear as a guest on your terrific show.
Thank you for joining me. And Deborah, I'm going to just dive into the topic of the day, the week, the month, artificial intelligence. How do we protect ourselves, our intellectual property, as we utilize and leverage these new tools that are ever changing? And really, it doesn't seem that regulation has caught up to where the technology is.
Oh, such terrific questions. Well, I think we can start by not just making a decision that we are not going to be afraid of AI. It is in our world. It is doing extraordinary things. And I think we just need to embrace it and figure out how we can incorporate it effectively.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to use an example. A lot of people are leveraging the power of AI to create copy and content for them, whether it's in their branding message, their marketing messages, their sales funnels, etc. How do we protect ourselves as we leverage these tools? And how do we make sure that we're making sure we're not infringing on anybody else's protected intellectual property?
You raise great questions. We have to think about AI and intellectual property protection both offensively and defensively. So from an offensive perspective, we have to think about, can we protect content that we use AI to generate? And the trick is that the Copyright Office only recognizes protection, intellectual property protection under copyright, if a human author creates content. So if I use AI to write a comic book, I won't be able to get that protected. But if I create a text and use AI to create the images, then at least I can get that text protected. So we just have to be mindful of what we can protect and what we can't. And every work has some protectable and unprotectable elements. So as long as we can keep that sorted, we still can obtain intellectual property protection.
So let me dive into that, because a lot of people are leveraging the technology to edit their book or to help them with idea generation as they continue on, whether it's a novel or a business related book or what have you. So what does that look like? It seems like a very gray area, like a fine line. Where is that line between this is generated by me as a human, this is this percentage of my creativity and my input, as opposed to 20, maybe it's 75, 25 or what have you. Where is that line, and how do we understand what is possible for us as entrepreneurs or authors or what have you?
Well, what the Copyright Office is telling us all is that only the content created by a human can be protected. But you raise a really good point, Jen, that human authors work in an iterative process. We create something and then we think about it and we retool and we get inspiration from our world and from other content. So nothing's ever created in a vacuum. The trick is to really keep in your creative process, to really remember what AI created and what a human author created. If you use AI for inspiration or for ideas or for visual imagery, but then still take those ideas and put them into your own expressive context, you're good. You have created that. Um, the trouble that people run into in protecting works is when they use AI to write text or to create images. That we cannot right now under current law get protected under US copyright law.
Well, that makes perfect sense. So we want to make sure that we are owning the creative process. It is an iterative. You're exactly right. It's an iterative process. And if we're using it to edit, to make sure we're correcting our grammar and our punctuation, that's very different than the creative process itself. So let me then ask you the next question, which is, what is responsible use of AI look like when it comes to AI? IP protection, for example, because there's responsible use and there's putting a prompt and just taking whatever is spit out and posting it everywhere. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like for responsible use of artificial intelligence.
Excellent. It is such an important question. So what you said before about using AI as a tool for like spell checking and editing and checking mistakes, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not going to take away from the expressive protection in the same way that having an editor review a document wouldn't take away an author's copyrightable interests. But in terms of responsible use of AI, what we want to think about is what AI tools we're using and whether those AI tools create infringement risk. So on the one hand, we think about AI, we're concerned about protecting our own creative content. But on the other hand, we have to apply the golden rule of creative rights and make sure we're not unfairly infringing somebody else's or illegally infringing somebody else's intellectual property.
Okay, and so can you dive into that a little bit deeper, because that seems to be a real area of mystery, so to speak, in the world, because there's so many works out there. Who knows if my creative process came from books that I read 30 years ago and I've totally forgotten about, but somewhere in my subconscious it's lying. So how do we know if we're infringing upon other people's rights when we are leveraging this technology? What does that look like? What are some of the things that we need to know? Or maybe, we don't know what we don't know until we get there, but what are some of the things we can do to be more responsible as we use it during the creative process?
Well, we can think very carefully about the AI platforms that we use. So there are AI platforms that use all content on the internet, everything that is copyrighted and in the public domain, all mixed together. And the trick with some of these platforms is that you could ask it to create a specific image, maybe an image from a film that you recently saw, and it could regenerate an actual image from the film. That could create a possibility for infringement. But if you instead try to rely on AI platforms that either are using your own research and work like in bigger companies, or restrict the information the AI is viewing, or alternatively, if you use an AI platform that only has public domain or licensed content, then you can be in great shape. Then you really diminish your risks. So this is one thing we work with clients on all the time, is advising them how to responsibly use AI. Look, it's unrealistic to expect creative people not to use AI. So we do have to work with them to figure out how they can do it responsibly.
Absolutely. It's all about not just learning the tool and what the tool brings, but also what are those guardrails? They're kind of ethical guardrails. And as this technology evolves, I assume those guardrails are going to evolve and we'll have more guidance along the way. So what can we expect as far as evolution of what we should be doing, like how we're ethically utilizing artificial intelligence? If we are now operating under today's laws, for example, and there is no guardrail, and then there was one in place, like what kind of risk are we looking at down the road for potential regulation?
Well, it depends on the application that you're using. So, for example, if I want to create imagery from the Civil War era, and we're going to ask AI to just generate images using those old photographs. All of those photographs are in the public domain. So I think in that context, you have very little risk. If you are asking AI to come up with facts, facts are not protected by copyright. So if you're just using AI to do research, that shouldn't be problematic either. The trouble comes when you're actually using it to replicate content. So if I ask it to write a New York Times article based on other New York Times articles of a certain issue, that's different because then you're really infringing the rights of one copyright owner potentially and creating a derivative work from their works. And that's very different from taking a pixel here and a pixel there from, a million cat videos or something.
Absolutely. So really be very cognizant about our use cases and citing sources. It gets back to like the basics of, for example, journalism. If we're making a social media post or a LinkedIn article or something, we need to cite our sources and give credit where credit's due. And maybe we have to look at having a license or whatnot. So what I'm hearing from you is everything that we know to do when we're creating our own content, we still have to consider when we have an AI assistant, if you will, doing the work for us. So thank you for that. We do have to take a brief break, but we will be right back after these messages.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, significantly lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and have seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the CGM Health Hotline now.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company, the time you spend with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with a high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
Hi, I am Noura Al-Masri and welcome to Echoes of Impact with Noura. Join me on a journey where we celebrate the power of women in business, the driving force behind growing nonprofits, and the architects of change in our community. We'll explore strategies for building successful businesses, increasing cash flow, and saving on taxes. Tune in to Echoes of Impact with Noura, because when women succeed, we all thrive. See you there.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. We are here with Deborah Gerhardt. She is an attorney who is an expert in patent, trademark, all things. We have been talking AI so far today. And so if you're just tuning in, you're going to want to make sure to catch the first segment. But I want to continue this conversation because, Deborah, this has been incredible information about how to look at the offense and defensive approach to intellectual property when we're leveraging AI tools for content creation, for example. I want to speak a little bit more specifically about how should we be protecting ourselves. For example, avatars have become a big thing. Name, image, and likeness. Like, we can now reproduce ourselves. There is a Jen, a generated me that I have created, and you know, I was very careful how I trained the audio, for example. It's a closed source training on my own content, so I'm not pulling from anything public when I feed that, for example, content creation into my avatar. So what should we be thinking about as we create these avatars of ourselves, whether they're 2D or 3D, as we have our voice created so that we can create content more rapidly? What are the things that we should be considering as we leverage those kinds of tools?
Great. We have to think about a lot of different name, image, and likeness issues. And we have to, I think it's very important actually to think about this with respect to our kids, especially our teenagers who are new to social media, new to AI, and new to the vulnerabilities that can be exposed on the internet. So one thing we have to really be careful about when we create avatars, or even just in putting our images out there, that other people can take them and do inappropriate deep fake things with them. And so I think it's very important that we keep an eye on our own digital content that we put out there and make sure that we are being careful about that and making sure that our kids are being careful and safe.
And so, as entrepreneurs, what are the things that we should be thinking about? For example, on social media, just related to brand. And I mean, I know this may sound very basic, but some things such as like don't put personal content out there because people can leverage that against you. Don't post that you're traveling because it leaves people to know that you're not at home, for example, and they can easily find where you live. So, what are some of the other things we should be considering as entrepreneurs and executives as we post content? When it comes to protection in these ways?
Well, one trick we can use is to register our copyrights, because if somebody should use your image and it's a photograph perhaps that you took or you had a photographer take and you have the copyright, if you've registered that copyright, it gives you many more legal rights to get that copyright, to get that photograph taken down if it's used inappropriately or if somebody turns it into something else. So protecting your intellectual property rights, whether it's a trademark or a copyright or a patent, making sure that you have all the appropriate government protection can really help you maximize those rights, especially when it comes to, we really have actually wonderful opportunities now with private companies like Amazon that make it possible to, if you have a registered trademark or copyright, they will partner with you and help you take down counterfeit or infringing material. And that can be a really helpful thing for businesses.
So can you speak a little bit more to this? Because I work with entrepreneurs all day long, and when I shared that we had met the first time that we had a conversation and you're like, get your name trademark, get your like the name, image, likeness thing. We've heard about NIL with regards to athletes, for example, protecting their brand, but how important is it for us in business to also do the same, and what does that look like?
Well, it's very, very important. We want our brand to be the symbol that connects our businesses with our communities. And when I talk to clients about creating and developing and nurturing their brand, I think about what kind of values they want linked to it. Every business has different values, and we work those in and make sure they're using the brand in ways that further those values. And that's really an exciting and fun project because it really relates to the soul of an organization. And then from there, if you register the trademark, then you're even in better shape because you can have national protection and even use that as a basis to get international protection. So the registration tremendously expands your rights and the power of your brand and also the value of your brand as an economic asset.
And so let me ask you the next question, because many of us, we are public figures and people have the same name as us. I mean, look, you have your middle initial here on television because that's how people find you on social and stuff. So what does that look like if my brand is actually my name or something along those lines, or my name is the brand? Do we have an ability to protect that?
We do. If you are providing, let's say, entertainment services or journalism services or advertising services or legal services using your name, you can register your name as a trademark if you're using it, not necessarily to identify yourself, but to identify your business and the services you provide.
And so should we be thinking about that as we move forward in today's world? Because what is shifting in business is, we all know business branding. We all understand registering and trademarking business brands. But what has shifted over the past couple of years, especially, is people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And they want to know the human behind the brand in a lot of cases. And so as personal branding becomes much more important in the business realm, whether we're executives or entrepreneurs, is this something we should be thinking about and doing on the front end, or is this something that maybe once it gets to the next level we think about that 2 years down the road? Like, where in the process should we be thinking about having that name protection when we're the face of the business, or we're the people who we're putting out the content, we're the first point of entry?
whatever your business is, if you're an individual providing services under your name, or if you're providing, if you're selling a product under a brand name, the earlier you think about this, the better off you are. Because what you don't want to do is invest all your seed money in a brand that somebody else may have federally registered. Because remember, federal registration gives national rights. And if you may not know about them, but if somebody else registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, that name, it could be your exact name or your brand, then you're really stuck because they will have superior rights to you and you may not even know. So it's very important to do your due diligence before you get too attached and invest too much money in your name brand.
And so is there a way for our viewers and listeners to even search this? Like, how do we go about this? I know that this may sound very basic to you, but people ask me this all the time. So I want to make sure that everybody who's here knows there are resources. So how can we look up to determine, is this brand registered? Is it taken? Can I operate in this way? Do I have a path forward to protect my name, for example, in this instance?
Absolutely. So the United States Patent and Trademark Office has searchable data, and they actually just revised their search system. It is amazing. It is easy to use, and you can type in whatever name you want to check, and you can see, and sometimes there will be a conflict. Or maybe what I love actually is for my clients to come to me with half a dozen names. And then we can search all of them and see which has the lowest risk. The trick is, though, you have to look for more than just names that are identical, because even similar names can be confusing enough to create trademark liability.
Okay, so that gives us a great guideline. And when do we engage a legal expert in this time? Like, we're thinking about doing this, or we're moving into a different product or service. What is the right time to engage somebody such as yourself in this process?
The beginning is always a good time, but whenever you're thinking, whenever it's right for the business to either develop a new brand or help their brand evolve, there are always opportunities to grow a brand and expand protection if that is what makes the most sense for the business. There have been businesses lately, because of branding with racial implications, for example, that have withdrawn brands and decided that even brands like Aunt Jemima that were immensely popular, they didn't even need to advertise it. But they've just decided that it didn't match the contemporary values. And because of that, the brand is being phased out. So really, all along the life cycle of a brand, you pick a great brand, though, that really symbolizes strong positive values. It can last forever if you take really good care of it.
That's fantastic advice. So I just want to really summarize this and let me know if I've missed anything. The time to think about protecting yourself is today. If you've got something that you're moving forward with, whether it's a business brand, whether it's your personal brand and you're putting yourself out there, it's a good idea to understand, is it available? Are you infringing on somebody else's right? If you are going to be putting yourself, your name, your image, your likeness out there in an AI format with a deep fake or an avatar of some sort, it's a good idea to get yourself protected so that other people cannot utilize that for nefarious purposes. That way it can kind of give you some additional protections. And there's never a wrong time to have a consultation with somebody in this space, because as we look at what our brand values are, having that extra pair of eyes, just like with coaching, Deborah, but having that legal extra pair of eyes can kind of ensure that we're defensively covering our bases as well as offensively covering our bases when it comes to our intellectual property. Did I miss anything?
Well, you do not need a lawyer to register your trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, but I have done some research to show that if you have an experienced trademark lawyer help you, you have a much greater likelihood of success in the process. So it is good if you are thinking of getting your brand registered, even though you can try to do it yourself, you have a better chance of succeeding, because it is a technical process that it just helps to have somebody on your side that really understands the rules.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm a huge fan of bringing the right team to the place, because if you set it up right in the beginning, you have a better chance of success on the end, and it saves us from doing a lot of extra work on the backside. So thank you so much for that. We do have to take a brief break, but we will be right back after these messages.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99, and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. If you're just tuning in, you're going to want to go to nowmedia.tv, click on shows, and watch the first half of today's episode. Why? Because we have been talking all things artificial intelligence, IP protection. How do we protect ourselves? How do we leverage the technologies available to us in a way that is ethical, that is going to be legal, that we're going to be protected both offensively and defensively with regards to our intellectual property, and so much more. We are here in studio with Deborah Gerhardt. She is the legal expert in all things trademark law, IP, branding, etc. And so I want to really dive into something that we touched on. We just brushed over it before the break, and that's controversy. What do we do when our brand is controversial or something has changed and it now means something different? And I'm just going to say, like, I think about the NFL and sports and some of the names of teams that have changed over the years because what was acceptable is no longer. So Deborah, how do we look at this. How do we adapt to this? Tell me a little bit about how brands evolve over time, because inadvertently something has become to mean something differently.
Oh, such an interesting and fun thing to talk about. Yes, we have seen racial dynamics in this country change dramatically, especially since the horrible, tragic death of George Floyd. And I think after that summer, a lot of people were really rethinking racial stereotypes in America, and you saw a lot of uh, brands that had racial content being dropped. So the Cleveland Indians are now the Guardians. We no longer have a team called the Redskins. We really, especially with respect to Native American imagery, I've seen a lot of these brands being dropped. So that's one thing. Sometimes a brand that at one time might have seemed okay, just contemporary values change. And brands also have to learn to change with the times to stay relevant. So think about how Barbie was rebranded through the recent movie. It was really a problem about this idea of Barbie and how skinny she is, and the beauty, this beauty myth, and all these. Does she make women feel bad if they're not this perfect, skinny, tall person? And the movie, I think, really totally reinvigorate the brand in a positive, affirming way for women. And it's just a beautiful example of how even a negative image can really be changed if a brand is brave and if you partner with the right creative people like they did in that case.
Absolutely. And I love that you bring that up, because, what was okay in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and how we operated in society is completely different than how we operate in society today. And so if we find ourselves in a situation today where something has changed because it's evolving rapidly, like even the way, like our jargon has changed. So words that were once completely innocuous are no longer, because we've assigned different meanings as a society recently, for example. Talk to me a little bit about how we're able to adapt. What does that look like from a legal perspective? And then what should we consider as we rebrand from your standpoint, so that we can have that bold shift, and we can call a spade and say, hey, this is not in alignment with our values anymore. We are going to make this change.
Well, I think the first step in that process is identifying what the values are. Because if you know clearly what your values are, you're going to know how to make the right decision. So Chick-fil-A got into trouble for not being open on Sunday, and it just doubled down on its dedication to Christian values and being closed on Sundays. And I really admired them for that. Not every brand has those same values and would have made that same choice, but they were true to their values. On the other hand, Skittles was caught in a surprise situation. Just in a second, these things can happen, where one of the Trump sons said, would you reach your hand into a bowl of Skittles if you knew one was rotten? And what he was trying to actually do is compare Skittles to immigrants and say, look, we shouldn't take any in if we know a few might be rotten. But he used that brand to illustrate the point. But the Skittles brand did such a good job of responding. They said, look, Skittles are candy. Immigrants are people, and we are not going to get into this. So, sometimes you really need to back off, but other times brands decide, look, this is something that is such a strong value to our company that we do need to take a step up. With that in mind, that they didn't want to perpetuate this this imagery that really was offensive to a lot of Black people for many, many, many years. And so they took the bold step of saying, look, we're gonna rebrand.
And there's been a lot of controversy in recent years over, for example, public monuments and other things that are in public spaces. And so can you speak a little bit about that evolution and how do we move forward in a way that aligns with where our society is going?
This is so tricky, because in the South especially, there are many states that have passed laws which prevent anybody from removing public monuments. And public monuments are a little bit like the trademarks of our civic communities. So when you have a controversial public monument, I think it's really important that we trust each other to be able to come together and make a choice about whether that monument represents our values. Now, does that always mean controversial monuments should be removed? Not always, but maybe they should be contextualized, or we could add additional monuments to a landscape to make sure that what we really hold up and put on pedestals is something that we're really proud of and all of us can come together and admire.
Absolutely. And, I'm reminded of, I visited Germany years ago, like 5 years ago, and they still have monuments and they leave them, even though they have extremely hurtful, negative connotations. We all know what happened in history, but they leave it because if we take down our history, we no longer think about the mistakes that we made. So they kind of have contextualized it in such a way as, we know this was in our history, we know it's not okay, and we're going to leave it here as a symbol of we don't ever want to do this again. So when we think about that, as we think about business and rebranding, how do we message that in such a way that we're like, hey, look, we understand this was what this was. Call a spade, call it out, be bold with it. And we understand that now it's perceived in this way. Like, what does that look like for us as entrepreneurs? How do we move that forward if we want to not forget our mistakes and use it as a failing forward, if you will, and a reminder so that we can continue to forge forward?
Germany is such an interesting example on this point because they have left some things up in all of Europe, really. The gates of Auschwitz are still up in Europe, but they're no longer a place where we celebrate the deaths of people being murdered. Instead, we remember how wrong and how immoral and horrible that was. And in addition, they've added in so many cities in Europe, they've added the little small stumbling stones so you can walk out of a building and see where a Jewish family was pulled out from that doorstep. And it's a small thing, but it really makes people understand and come to terms with what happened so that they can move on. If we don't face our history, if we don't acknowledge perhaps that a brand needs a refresh, then we won't have the courage to take action.
I think that's really a great way and a great perspective. And so as we think about taking action, as we think about all of these concepts that we've talked about, what are, in your mind, very briefly, the most important things for new brands and evolving brands to consider today, now, with what's happening in our world?
Think about your values. Think about developing a distinctive symbol that will help your consumer community connect around those values, so that when they see that symbol, those values are reinforced and they want to connect.
I think that is probably our action step of the day for everyone who is watching. If you did not hear it, I'm going to just have you repeat it again. Deborah is talking about, as brands, whether we have an existing brand, whether we're evolving, or whether we're thinking about jumping off the cliff into entrepreneurship, how we position that and how we share what our values are is more important than anything else. So Deborah, that action step was what again when we think about branding?
Think about your values, be really specific and clear about them, and then develop symbols that will help you connect with your community so that together you can support those values and affirm them.
I absolutely love it. That was as best as it could possibly be expressed. So if you're sitting here, you always get an action step. That is your number one action step. And if you have a brand, I would encourage you to reflect on your values and ask yourself, does the public see my brand in the same way? Would other people describe my brand with these values? Because that's another topic, and we're going to dive a little bit into that after the break, but I wanted to give you a slight teaser. So What are your values, and what is the symbol that connects you, your consumers, to those values as a reminder? We will be right back after these messages.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99, and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. We are here with Deborah Gearhart, and she is dropping all kinds of knowledge for us with regards to brand, with regards to intellectual property protection, and so much more. We've talked about controversy, we've talked about AI, and everything in between. But before the break, we talked about your action step for today, which is whatever it is that you were doing, whether you have an existing brand, an evolving brand, or you're about to launch your brand. What are your values, and what symbol powerfully reminds you, your clients, your prospective clients, about those values? And I'm going to ask the question that I hinted at before the break, Deborah, and that's, what if what our values are and what we perceive we are sharing with people is not what they're receiving?
Well, then we need to do recalibration. We need to figure out if perhaps our values need to evolve or our brand needs to evolve. But we need to figure out, so successful brands, 4 to 5 brands fail. So who succeeds? Well, the people who succeed are the ones that connect with the public, with whoever their public is. So if if I want to connect with people because I sell organic milk, right? I'm going to be connecting with different people than people who are lactose intolerant, and that's fine. There's room in this world for so many different businesses. And when I speak about values, it might be something as simple as selling a particular product that has really reliable qualities that people come to rely on. Even that creates a sense of reliability and trustworthiness. I think really when I speak with clients about values, really what we're trying to do is build trust and build community so that you have loyalty among your consumer community.
And so if we're looking at this as an entrepreneur, for example, and we're starting our business, and we know that, for example, I'm gonna just use some of mine, right? I believe that we do what we say we're gonna do when we say we're gonna do it. It's integrity, but it's so much more. And I believe in being in business on purpose, like we are serving the community with what we're doing, as well as with our products and services. So it's a giving back. And so if we're not messaging that appropriately, then people don't understand what we really stand for. So how do we message that in such a way when we're just starting out? Because we have people who are starting out, then we have people who have been around the block for a long time. I want to really dial in for those who are starting out. How is it that once we know what our values are, we're able to foster that know, like, trust and that community based on our values?
Well, I think if you're clear about what your values are and you're making a decision about what types of advertisement to engage in, who to reach out to, what types of talent to use, your values will help you drive all those decisions. Even how you're treating all your employees. I represent a museum, and their values drive even the programming, who they bring in as guest lecturers. It's very important that if you want to have a consistent, meaningful message, it's very important to be thoughtful about every single step that you take.
Especially your strategic partnerships. So what I'm hearing, and we've talked about this in the show before, but you are an expert in this particular arena. So if we partner with a brand that's not completely aligned with our own, what does that do? Is that brand damaging to us? So it's really important that we're aligning. Do we have to align on all values? I know I'm going to get this question. Oh, my partner aligns on some values, not all values. Is that okay?
It depends on what your core values are. And if you're a very family-friendly brand and you have a family-friendly celebrity that does influencing for you, but then they're outed for doing something really inappropriate, that may be somebody you want to distance yourself from. If you are a brand that caters to vegetarians and one of your main influencers is out enjoying hamburgers all the time, maybe that is not the right person for your values, right? But if it's just, oh, this person got caught for speeding, maybe that's not quite so bad. It's illegal, but we can deal with it because it's really not related to the core values of what we're doing. So everybody, of course, whenever you have two thoughtful people, there are going to be differences in values. But I think what we want to try to do is partner with organizations and with businesses that can help really buttress our brand. So, for example, when Target did a collab with the Museum of Modern Art, it was really exciting because it was wonderful because they were able to give all these people to help MoMA by buying all these entrance fees. But on the other hand, they got to be associated with the amazing contemporary design of the Museum of Modern Art. So even if your values don't perfectly align, sometimes they can really affirm each other in a way that is beneficial to both organizations.
And I think that's really the key here, because especially when you're new in business, a lot of times when we're new in business, we're like really hungry and we just want to do the most good. And so sometimes we make poor choices, and that can muddy our brand recognition, and it can muddy what we are putting out there. It's so important that when we do align with other companies, that we're doing things that are going to add value, that are going to bring forward the positive light and add something to it rather than take something away. That's kind of my takeaway based off of that. So Deborah, you are exceptional at what you do, and we've talked about a lot of different things, and I want to kind of pull everything back in a bow, because we started having the conversation about artificial intelligence. We talked about protecting ourselves, protecting our brand, protecting our content, and responsibly using AI. And as we evolve in business and we hone in on our values, what are some best practices that we can put into play today? I like to have a today action step for people. What are some best practices we can put into action today that takes all of those things into consideration so that we can establish what our guardrails are when we leverage technology or when we change our, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for us? What would you say would be like the step 1, step 2, step 3 that we can take action on today?
Well, I think one really important thing is to basically think of creative rights in connection with the golden rule. So as we develop our creative rights, I think it's really important that we also develop an ethic of respecting the creative rights of others. And this is where it's really important to develop and optimize what you have, but do it in a way that you're creating your own distinctive space, not infringing on somebody else's space, because you really don't want to be in their space. You want to create your own distinctive path. So thinking about how you can stand out from the competition by not copying somebody else, by doing something different, more innovative, more creative. I see a lot of people that are really tempted to copy because somebody else has been successful, but I really think it's best to think about developing your own thing. And yeah, so basically remember the golden rule. Develop your own creative rights, but respect other people's creative rights at the same time.
I love that. And you know what comes to me very strongly is be authentic. Like, we can't copy. I can't be you. You can't be me. We're our own unique human being. And we bring our own experiences to the surface. And if you're watching this, guess what? That's your unique selling proposition as well. You are unique. So what about you can you bring to the forefront as you're developing your creative outlet? And so, Deborah, we are running towards the end of the show. If people would like to learn more about protecting their intellectual property, if they would like to learn more about developing their brand in a way that really showcases and connects with their audience, how can they reach out to you to learn more?
You can reach me at Deborah@elegonip.com. That's Deborah, like in the Bible, DEVORAH, at Elegon, IP, ELIGON, IP, like intellectual property.com. And I work with an incredible team of lawyers that are our whole raison d'etre is to help you all develop your brands, protect your brands, and grow your business so that it can flourish and you can connect with your consumer communities.
Beautiful. And Deborah, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, because you were an expert in your space, you were the go-to, we know this to be true, but if you could go back to that earlier version of you and give you one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, be brave. Be brave.
Thank you so much. And before we close, are there any last things that you would like to share with our amazing audience as they go forth and be brave as they conquer the next step in their business?
Just that you don't have to do it alone. Just like what you said, Jen, everybody has their own unique strengths, but look at this beautiful conversation we were able to have because we joined forces. So I think that, look for those people that inspire you to be your better selves, and that's who you want to partner with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your expertise. I really appreciate everything that you have brought to me and my audiences today. And you, yes, you, it is time to take action today. Right now, you are going to take action on one thing that you heard in the conversation with Deborah. Maybe it's reaching out to Deborah to learn more about how you can protect your own intellectual property. Maybe it's getting in touch with your values, but whatever it is, I want you to take action right now, not tomorrow and not next week, because then this just becomes another hour that we listened to things and didn't implement. The magic happens when we move forward. So let's move forward powerfully together. Take that action step. Unfortunately, all good things do come to an end, including this show. But the good news is we will be here, same time, same station next week. Until then, win today, win this week, and I'll see you next time.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, significantly lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and have seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for a CGM today.